The following is an archived interview originally conducted by Julius B. Chaton. This interview was aired on KFCF 88.1 FM, Free Speech Radio for Central California. For more details, please visit kfcf.org.
The first guest that we have is Dr. Charmaine Radellant, and I will try to put her through right now. Charmaine, are you with us?
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you guys doing?
Hi there, my sister. How are you doing?
Hello. Happy New Year to you.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Yes, I've had the pleasure of spending New Year's Eve with Charmaine as we, went out to a couple of gatherings, and it was just a pleasure to be amongst old friends and new. Charmaine, can you tell us a little bit about your background, your education, some of your career?
As Julius has mentioned, my name is Charmaine Radellant. I am a clinical psychologist by way of New York City, where I obtained my bachelor's in psychology, went on to John Jay College of Criminal Justice, where I got my master's in forensic psychology, and that brought me to Fresno, California, where I obtained my doctoral degree in clinical psychology, and have worked in multiple places, foster care, prison system, state hospitals, and I am currently in private practice with Fresno Mental Health Services.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Gives the audience a little bit of background on our guest this evening. And Charmaine will be discussing this evening, as you know, the holidays and, some of the things that can really happen to us during the holidays on an emotional level. The holidays are often seen as a time to come together and share our love with family and friends. The realities, however, are that many of us are not readily accessible to our loved ones. There are people who are living away from home, estranged from their families, incarcerated, or they simply don't have any loved ones to share such special occasions with, So the end result is that many aren't able to experience the same, cookie-cutter celebrations that are created and perpetuated by on us by the commercialization. So, I suspect that someone who's spent the holidays alone has also spent the rest of their year alone as well. And many find ways to make peace with their separations at other times of the year, but for some reason, many of these same people feel lonelier and more isolated during the holidays. So, Dr. Radellant, based on the manufactured images we see each year of togetherness and happiness, do you find that the media creates an expectation or standard which compels people to believe that a holiday spent alone is a holiday spent in misery?
I think to some degree, those that are invested, and invested meaning that they spend a significant amount of time in front of television or listening to certain radio programs, may buy into the commercialization of various holidays, and that's just not excluded to the Christmas holiday, although there's a big emphasis for families and friends to come together and spend quality time. However, there are another segment of our population who actually look forward to the holidays in that they have time off from work and have time to actually spend doing the things that they enjoy, be it being alone. That's also not necessarily viewed in a negative way. And there are those who really enjoy going to social functions or social gatherings and enjoy the interaction with others. So it depends on who the individual is that we're talking about. On the other hand, if we have someone who is dealing with clinical depression, the holidays can really accelerate their feelings of loneliness, sadness, hopelessness, and so forth. And so those are the people we want to be very, very vigilant about contacting, reaching, so that they do not fall into the negative state of what the holidays sometimes can promote when one is not able to be with relatives and friends. Those are the ones we certainly want to be able to reach out to.
Now, my idea of us just being as human beings is that it's a human need to have some sort of connection to others. And I remember, telling Dr. Kennedy, over the holiday or post-holiday that while I was, with my family on the actual day, Christmas Day, I celebrate Christmas, it was actually kind of, depression kind of hit me out of nowhere. It just kind of sideswiped me, and it was like, I don't know, I just became really emotional, and I don't know how much of that is because I was kind of isolated with my family, or how much of that was, just me not dealing with my issues until certain times of the year. Mm-hmm. But don't you think that it's, a human need regardless to just want to be amongst people?
Oh, it is. We're social beings. We came from families. We're always surrounded by people, and in our passing there will be people. So we're always around other people, be it directly or indirectly. People affect our lives. They are an intricate part of our sense of self, our sense of identity. We're social beings.
Right. Well, while many of us found ourselves spending the holidays alone, there were several other Americans who had an abundance of guests visiting them this year. Although the idea of a packed house may have seemed ideal, a lot of people ended up biting off more than they could chew. According to nmha.org, the demands of shopping, parties, family reunions, and house guests can also contribute to feelings of tension. Dr. Radellant, do you feel that those who took on the task of holiday host or hostess could have also developed holiday blues just because they were overwhelmed with the responsibilities of entertaining?
That can happen to someone who is not really focused, and they're not doing it from the heart. They're doing it simply because they're being told to do it by relatives. In other words, it's your year to host, so therefore, you're responsible for putting it all together. And people like that may not necessarily find the joy because they're being somewhat coerced to do it, and it's not a joyful feeling. On the other hand, you do have people who find hosting a great experience. They get a chance to show off their home, the nuances of being with friends and family, the different foods that they're able to prepare that oftentimes they're not preparing during the year. And they enjoy the social interactions, seeing old faces, relatives they have not seen for a while. So again, it depends on who the person is and what they may be, experiencing individually. But by and large, it can have both effects, be it individually where they're being coerced, or someone who really looks forward to the holiday and enjoys the entertainment aspect of it.
Well, I think that, larger families do create this expectation that, okay, everybody's going to Big Mama's house, or everybody's going to Aunt Sandy's house, and we're going to have this gathering, and it's going to be big. It's going to be bigger than before. We get caught up in the idea of yesteryear. This is something else that I saw online where people compare past experiences from past holidays and try to live up to that one grandiose holiday that everyone had. And I can remember the one from my childhood that it was just so big and extravagant, and others weren't quite the same, and we were always kind of sinking into the slump of, I wish we could have done it like we did this one year, or and so I can understand that pressure, from from our family members to just want that
to perform. Yeah. But again, some families that are used to that, I mean, that's their highlight. They look forward to those kinds of social gatherings. So, again, it depends on who the family member is. If it is something that they've bought into and they enjoy doing, they're going to look forward to it. On the other hand, if it's something that they feel that they are being put upon to do, they're not necessarily going to find the same level of joy that the person who's looking forward to it is.
Right. Well, what did we experience during the holidays? I know Dr. Kennedy, Willow, what did we all basically experience, in terms of togetherness? I mean, for me personally, it was quaint, and it was. I think we focus on the buildup of one particular day, not realizing that the entire season could be enjoyed. And so while the actual day was very quaint, I did enjoy time with my friends. I have a friend, Cesar Gomez, and he and his girlfriend, Sally. We all went out to Christmas Tree Lane. And, well, if you tune into our last show, you know that ended in an interesting event happening, a gang-related stabbing, which fortunately none of us were hurt. But the day itself was very, very enjoyable. And, I got to be interviewed by the news. It was fun. I was hot for about 5 minutes, on the air. And so, it was enjoyable. I just think, that's another thing we should take into account, the idea that, the entire season can be enjoyed.
Yes, it can be enjoyed, and it depends, again, on the space that you're in. And if you're looking forward to the holiday, you're going to enjoy the holiday. If you're viewing it as anxiety-provoking because you may not have the financial resources to give everyone on your wish list various presents and what have you, you're going to give yourself this mental pressure, not necessarily that anyone is giving it to you, but you have these expectations
right.
that sometimes not particularly realistic,
right,
so you don't look forward to the holiday because you have these, expectations that are just not always realistic ones. When we're used to certain kinds of traditional things that we would normally do, such as getting together, when there is a divorce, which is one of the most stressful events that you will experience in your life, or the death of a relative that would normally have been involved. Maybe it's grandma, who is the matriarch of the family, or grandpa, who is the patriarch. So we have certain kinds of traditional things that we would do with these relatives around, and lo and behold, the season comes, it's the anniversary of, and they're not there for whatever reason, be it death or, family living far away, and we have to now change the normal traditions of what we do. It does bring about feelings of, depression, and if we're not careful, in terms of preparing ourselves for this new way we have to now function as a family, it can certainly take you into a rut. So, again, being mindful of where you are and somewhat preparing for the changes that will be. We can't always prepare and predict everything, but as much as possible, we certainly want to be aware of the changes that does happen in family.
I found myself tearing up quite a bit this last this holiday and stuff like this, but for all the right reasons this time, not for any of the wrong reasons. You know what I mean?
Very good, very good. I'm glad you pointed that out, because sometimes being in a quiet space doesn't necessarily mean that you are miserable
right.
or that you are depressed or that you're going through negative experience. Sometimes just being in that quiet space and sometimes reflecting brings about emotions of tears. It's not necessarily that you're depressed. You're just reflecting on the year. You're reflecting on all that has gone on, and it's going to bring about these feelings. And knowing who you are and how you generally respond to stress, you're able to compartmentalize. Is this depression, or is this just my usual way of dealing with life and changes, and it's okay. I'm okay in the world. I'm okay with myself. I'm okay with the holidays. I'm okay with what's to come.
Doctor, when I was, my mother passed away 9 or 10 years ago or something, and I remember I had a nervous breakdown at the hospital. But as I left the hospital back to myself, I knew that was okay. I knew it was nothing shameful or nothing that I did wrong. It was just the way it was. It was a part of me that collapsed. You know what I mean? And then the other part of me picked me back up and put me back straight. You know what I mean? And then everything started working right again. But I felt at that time so helpless. I mean, I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't stop shaking, no matter what I told myself. But yet, but it's just me coming out of the other side okay and a lot better off for that.
So, and it's so good that you were able to acknowledge those feelings. You've lost a major figure in your life. That's your mom.
Mm-hmm.
The most important, most influential person in your life is your parent, be it your mom or your dad.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends on the extent of your relationship with them. And when you've lost that significant person, you need to sit with it. And if you need to bawl, then that's what you need to do in that moment. And how long that's going to continue? The usual period for grieving is usually about 2 to 3 years. And that is true for divorce or the loss of, family member, usually the more significant ones, mom and dad. It will take that long, or a spouse if it's, you're married.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take that long, but it's normal.
Yeah, it is.
Very normal response.
I wanted to touch on the idea of making resolutions and setting goals for ourselves within the new year. According to statistics gathered from an article written by psychologist Deborah Sarani and published on psychologytoday.com, about 45% of Americans make resolutions. Some of the most common resolutions include weight loss, exercising more, getting finances in order, abstaining from smoking, alcohol, or other bad behaviors. However, studies also have shown that 25% of people who make resolutions fail at them within the first week. The other 40% fail after the first month. Apparently, such failure with resolutions can cause people to experience low self-esteem, depression, and sadness. It's interesting to me that, we as a society and a culture are always encouraging ourselves to set personal goals and work on self-improvement year-round. Yet, in the wake of the holiday season and the new year, it suddenly becomes less probable for us to meet the objectives we set for ourselves. So, Doctor, do you feel that there's any particular reason why the majority of the population has such a hard time accomplishing their New Year's resolutions?
I think a good part of what generally happens is that people set goals that are sometimes not realistic ones. For example, I'm going to lose in the next 3 months, I'm going to lose 100 pounds. Meantime, all year I have not really lost any pounds, but I think I'm going to do that. And so we employ strategies that we think are going to work, but the reality is we have made unrealistic goals rather than, for example, if I wanted to lose weight, maybe in the next month, 5 pounds. And if I achieve my goal of the 5 pounds, which is a more realistic and attainable goal, I'm likely to follow through to the following month where I'm going to lose maybe 2 pounds. But setting these high, unrealistic goals of accomplishing whatever it might be with very short spans of time or limited supports or lack of education can set us up to not being able to achieve those goals. And then when we don't, we then personalize it and think that it's something wrong with you or that you're not smart enough or I'm not, committed enough. And it's not necessarily intrinsic reason. It's just that the external choices that you made to achieve these goals were not realistic ones. And setting goals is critical to our survival. We need goals. We need to have something that we're working toward on a daily basis. When you wake up in the morning, having a to-do list is critical to you accomplishing whatever it is that you've set out to do. So sticking to those routined, simple but routine way in which you want to accomplish what you want, you're likely to gain more results from that rather than, again, setting goals that are just not realistic and you don't have any real follow-through on how you're going to accomplish it or how you're going to, implement the kind of changes that's necessary. Because change is hard. And when we're talking about changing behaviors, we're talking about making serious modifications. And if we're comfortable, we don't want to be taken out of our comfort zone. And so we're likely to morph right back into old patterns of doing things that, again, does not have long-term benefits if we're not clear or we don't have the kind of support system to achieve what it is we're looking to do.
That's perfect. Yeah, I did see something online that said that, although the majority fail within the first try, it's several tries, that they eventually their behaviors become habitual. So it's something that you obviously have to be consistent with. Any final thoughts, Doctor, as we go on our first break, just surrounding just combating post-holiday blues? Any coping skills, any techniques that you suggest?
Well, I have lots of coping strategies. Those who have set goals and have began working towards those goals, they may not necessarily achieve them, but they need to give themselves credit for the fact that they even had the idea and that they made one step. Praise yourself and be thankful that you did do that one thing, whatever that one thing is. You may not have quite succeeded at it, but you actually did it. You formulated the thought. You created that board or that chart or whatever it is that you've decided to do to create that change needed. Be glad about what you have done. It may not have been a whole lot, but it's the one thing that you did. It's the one action that you made, and it's all about, being more repetitive like anything else. If we're learning to ride a bicycle, it's going to take multiple, falls, wobbliness before we're actually able to find our stride and we're able to really go and feel more confident. Anything that you're trying for the first time, it's going to be wobbly, but stick with it, but also be easy on yourself because change takes time. It is not something that's rapid. We live in a fast-paced society that tells us we need to do this by this time, and sometimes again those are not realistic expectations, and we end up setting ourselves up and end up failing because we're attempting to do things that are not necessarily realistic things that we're looking to do. When we're talking about coping with holiday blues or depression or any kind of negative anxiety-creating situation or feelings, how do I overcome that? It's really, really, really critical. One of the things that I always say, we are social beings, and so it is necessary that we reach out to our support systems, be it our close friends or our siblings or if we're in any kind of self-support kinds of groups, Al-Anon, AA, Alcohol Anonymous, I just mentioned, and any of those kinds of social networks, plug in and get involved. Reach out to people, let people know what you're feeling, what you're going through, because they may not necessarily pick up on it. And we do sometimes have a mask. In fact, we all create and have masks for various kinds of places and situations, and people aren't always able to penetrate those masks, particularly if we don't want them to. But let's learn to lower those masks, because if we don't, we find that we are in silent suffering, and the help is so easy to reach. So reach out to people, let them know what you're going through so that they are able to be that support that you need. Another thing that I would also strongly recommend is after a period of time you notice that you're still feeling somewhat in the dumps, go out and get a medical checkup. For most part, we tend to neglect our health, and sometimes there may be some kind of medical issue going on that we're not aware of. And so it's necessary, if you've noticed that you've gone past 2-3 weeks, you're still feeling this way, you have not had a medical checkup, your appetite has changed, be it you're eating too much or you're eating too little, talk to your primary care physician. Make an appointment. Go in, get checked, get some blood work done. Usually you might find your B level is way lower than it needs to be. So get some medical help. Also, it is so important for us to be moving, to be active, to be doing things that we wouldn't normally do. Sometimes we sit in front of television for exorbitant periods of time and we're not active, so we're not getting some of those endorphin going. Let's be active. Sometimes you don't have to do any kind of rigorous exercise, but just walking through your neighborhood, circle the block and come back. Clean your home. Sometimes cleaning your house can help to lift your emotions because you're doing something and you're seeing the results of your hard work. Reading, it's so important for us to read. Read something that you enjoy. Whoever your favorite author is, pick up their book. And you don't necessarily have to buy it. The public library is there. And if you have reading issues, you can buy audiobooks or you can get audiobooks. So reading is very, very essential to what you need to do. It's also critical that we learn to appreciate who we are and what we have. Sometimes we think because I don't have whatever you think you need to have in your life to create that happiness, that means therefore you're without or you're not sufficient. I remember one person said, 1 is a whole number. You don't need 2 to feel complete. 1 is a whole number and you're complete as is. Appreciate who you are and appreciate what you have. You may not have the best of circumstances, but appreciate what you do have, because I can always guarantee you your situation, it can always be worse for someone else. So appreciate what you have and take inventory. We don't take inventory enough. We don't pay attention to the fact that, wow, I have resources. I can actually have light in my home. I can actually have heat where I'm at. I can actually, put some clothes on. I can actually wash them. Appreciate, take inventory of what you do have. It's necessary for you to engage in your spiritual life, whatever that might be. Pray, connect, meditate, talk to your pastor, talk to your spiritual leader. Connect with your spiritual self, because we're all spirits and we're all spiritual beings. So let's connect with that so that we're not feeling as though we're in this thing alone. We're not alone by any stretch of the imagination. Even when you feel that you're there and I'm the only one, you're never, never, never alone. Take classes. Oftentimes we feel depressed, especially this time of year. You start, 2 times a year when we start doing self-inventory. It's usually the first of the year, and then usually it's birthdays. And you start, am I quite accomplishing the things that I want to? Take classes. There's lots of classes that are being offered, be it at City College or Fresno Adult School, Clovis Adult Schools. Really, really simple classes. You can learn photography, like what Dr. Kennedy was talking about, and I certainly wanted to, embark on what she said. You're never, ever, ever too old to get involved and do and live your dreams, your aspirations. Get involved. Take a class. You may not know how to, but the fact that you're willing to learn how to is a plus. Learn to play a musical instrument and get involved doing those things. I think those would be really, really important. But last but not least, I don't want to leave without remembering the importance of us paying attention to our dietary practices. If you're eating a lot of sweets and a lot of sodas and a lot of, all these really, really sweet kinds of foods, it'll give us a high for a very short period of time, but then after a while, they are downers. And so if we're embodying a lot of sweets, let's cut back on that. Let's cut back on the sodas, cut back on the pies, buy a juicer, start juicing. When you eat live food, you're likely to come alive, and you're going to feel alive, and you're going to feel better. So really, really pay attention to your dietary practices. And I think with all of what I've just stated to you, you're likely to find that you're able to move from the place of rut to living and being a part of this new year, feeling vibrant and feeling, wow, I am so glad to be in 2012, and I didn't stay back in 2011. So you've got something to celebrate. You've got something to be alive and feel good about. So let's get happy. Let's take care of ourselves and not expect others to do what we are very capable of doing for ourselves.
Isn't that the truth?
Fantastic.
Yes.
I say big up, sister. Amen to that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Radellant, for joining us this evening. It was an absolute pleasure.
What a gift. What a gift to our audience.
And
Thank you so much.
And can you just take a minute to plug your practice, if that would be possible?
Oh, sure. As I mentioned, I am in private practice with Fresno Mental Health Services. We are centrally located between Ashland and Dakota on Fresno Street. And if anyone would like to, I do take most HMOs, and so anyone wanting to make an appointment, they can always call me at 559-307-9505. And I am currently accepting patients, so I'm always available.
Thank you for listening to this archived interview originally broadcast on KFCF 88.1 FM. For more information on free speech radio in Central California, visit kfcf.org. This has been a Julius Chaton production.